So this is not a deep dive of Python programming where you will explore in-depth knowledge of every object so that you can become a pro, right? So this is again not a batch to discuss in-depth, very detailed AWS so that you can crack every certification, okay? These two aspects are a bit horizontally spread, and it takes good amount of time to spend and learn. Now, what is this batch about? So this we are targeting only for the candidates who are going to appear the interviews directly. If there is some guy who is ready to appear in an interview and he's missing some real-time experience, it could be a fresher, okay? So, I mean, we are again targeting from the freshers point. The freshman who does not have any basic programming skills, okay? That's why we will have Python sessions in the beginning where you will be getting the ability to code and understand the code so that you will definitely easily clear the coding tests provided that there is an effort from your end, okay? So that will be the start of our batch with in-depth Python and what we cover in Python, right? So we'll be covering the basic data types, data structures. I'm sorry, I did not ask this question. Am I audible, first of all? You guys all can hear me, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So basic data types, the data structures, and how to form the loops, the conditions, the functions. If you do not know what this, just think that these are the ingredients to cook your code. That's it. So if you know this, you can code any program. But again, there is something else. Okay, so like modules, and then oops, threading concepts. Okay, some ABC concepts. After which you should be able to implement any task using Python scripting. Okay, with your effort again. Once it is done, there is something more to this. That is called as frameworks. Okay, so you need to build the applications using frameworks ideally in your real time. Okay, we will not be touching this because the frameworks is left to you to explore. This is not a big deal. The way we carry out this, right? So we will have a common path or a formula to identify and work with every new object that you see inside Python. Okay. In our data types discussion, data structures discussion itself, you'll be getting to know that. So ideally, you do not have to go to Google and search any documentation. Everything is available in your IDLE. I mean the console, the installation of Python. We call it as IDLE. Okay, this is the guy. So this guy has everything that you need to know. Okay, you don't have to go to another trainer. You don't have to go to another site or an example, right? So everything is given as a helper tool. It takes some time to load. Yeah, this one. Okay, so it answers us in every detailed way. That's how the documentation of Python is built on. But the whole goal or summary of this discussion that is related to Python is you'll be able to code in Python using scripting. Okay, and then comes AWS. Okay, so AWS is one of the public cloud platforms where it's majority of the public platforms, cloud platforms are occupied by AWS, and there is a huge demand from the time zones, especially that you are from. Okay, I've gathered and segregated the distinct time zones that you guys are all from, and AWS is still in the boom there. Okay, so while you're operating on AWS, a cloud technology, you will never go to the cloud console. So AWS looks like something like this. Okay, it's just a bunch of tools that you need to work on. Okay, so these are all the services. Any of the service you need to make use of. Okay, but in real time, in your setup, when you're working with AWS, you will never go to any service and click that much. Okay, you know, do this click EC2 and then launch an EC2 instance. You will not do that. Okay, you will implement something called templates. You will implement an automation logics using Python. Okay, So basic scripting is mandatory to work on AWS. But again, like I said, the summary of it is for each scenario, what the interviewer might ask, what you should answer, and the end goal of this lectures is we will be creating a virtual 6 year or 7 year experience for your profiles. Okay. Initially, it will be in depth on Python, but later upon, after 8 to 9 sessions, right? So if things are going good, then in the 8th or 9th session, we'll be starting in parallel real time with AWS. Okay. Otherwise, it depends. If we are going slow, yes, it will take some 12 to 13 sessions for sure. After once we get a good understanding on Python, and then we will start AWS and then the real time. So the basics on how we proceed is we will have few things here. Okay, one is a Google sheet where you will discuss all the updated pointers like the questions related to interviews and what answers you have to give, and then the experience related to your project. Okay, that falls under real time. So what you need to explain at what situation, etc., etc. Okay, so this is going to be your previous projects. Okay, so again, to just clarify one thing. So I know that there are different groups in this batch. Okay, one group is a group that needs marketing to be done, and we will be taking care of that, and then we will directly put them in the interviews. For those, it is ideal. For the other group, you guys are already experienced and you need a career change or whatever. So even for them, the road is straightforward. It doesn't change. Okay. So and the other one is the group, the persons who wants to excel in the coding or scripting or something, right? So for all these three groups, just let's see what's going on. If it is ideally matches our frequency, then we can continue further. Is what I would be done for. So we'll have a Google sheet that has pointers related to each and every discussion. Okay. So for example, difference between extend and append is an expected interview question. Difference between this insert, append, extend, it's also an expected one. Magic methods versus attributes. Forget about what it is, right? So, but I'm just giving a gist of how our discussion goes. Okay. DRY, KSS are the strategies that Python follows. When you see this, I mean, when a guy who already attended this batch sees this, so for Python, what should I prepare before I step into the interview? You don't have to prepare anything if you go through this for a minute or two. This is orchestrated like that. Okay. So that's about your Google sheet. And there is something called as Word docs. Okay. So there's a detailed documentation that we will be giving you. And these documents are never expected to be opened at all. Okay. Those are already dealt in the lectures, and ideally I expect you to never open them. If you have a gap of around 3 or 4 months, you just took this course or training for nothing, maybe for later purpose, later reference, you just felt like taking it, and then you do not remember anything, then in that point of time, those documents will be handy and useful. Okay, I'll show you just a second. I guess the link is open, right? Okay, fine. Just a second. Someone is asking the link. I don't know how they got to know. Okay. Yeah. So how the Word documents will appear is should have it somewhere here. Yeah. So for example, conditions, if else conditions in Python is a matter of 10 to 15 minutes if you discuss every scenario. Okay. But same flow control if you see in the document that we provide, okay, with the flowchart, what happens, what are the conditions, what are the scenarios, the document itself elaborates with the diagrams, pictures, and then bullet points, right? So this is okay. This is okay for the entirely beginner persons, but ideally the expectation is you should already have this understanding in your mind once we are done with these conditionals, okay? So, but still we'll be having these Word documents. And the next thing is PPTs. PPTs has two sections, okay? One is input outputs and bullet points, okay? So input outputs are framed in such a way that they are all editable. Again, these are some things that I would expect you guys to go through before attending an interview too. All right, I'll show you how it looks like. I've took a lot of effort in preparing all these materials, and they are definitely helping a lot of people that are attending the batches. You know, the first ones definitely you might be already got a glance of that, right? So if you see this will be bullet points and IOs. These are editable IOs, input outputs, okay? So you can play around. If at all you want to learn something about or revise or revisit something about strings in Python, let's say, for example, okay? So string starts here. What you need to say about strings? They're immutable. I don't know what it is, but there is no char type like in C++ or whatever the languages, right? So it's like overloaded to do the concatenation, since concatenation is doing the overload operation, operator overload. So whatever it means, again, it's agenetic, okay? So again, what you need to learn about is this. The examples are this, okay? So this is well written, well framed. I believe so. And I did not receive any negative feedback so far about these docs, okay? That's about the PPTs that we will provide. And we also have feedback form, because I understand that the frequencies, right? So when there are 10 people, some people will understand when I repeat it 2 times or 3 times. Some people will feel bored when I repeat it 2 times or 3 times. So I just need to listen to everybody, right? So that I can tune and adjust the concerns. And people may not, people will not actually call out even if they miss out something, right? So I often see that a lot, okay? Because they think that they feel that they are disturbing with others. So for the same reason, we have our feedback forms ready, and you can anonymously send your feedback. I'll not be knowing that you sent the feedback, and I'll be correcting myself if at all there is something else that's missing, okay? So these are all some of the feedback forms from the last batch. We have, so this is about another thing that we'll be having, okay? So the batch goes on like this, and in the middle of it, I still did not decide on data engineering and data science. I'll be dealing both, okay? So we will have a considerate polling, an online poll, and the majority, whatever inclines to whichever, we'll be going ahead for that. And our AWS content will be aligned towards that specific domain, okay? So all good so far? Any questions still now?
Yes. No, not yet.
Okay. So now, I would also like to talk about the credibility of teaching this course. So I cannot talk much about Python, why or how I can be a suitable guy to teach Python, because Python is an open source completely, and there is no certifications as such or recognitions, I would say. But I've done a lot of contribution to of our Python. I will talk about it in further. But for AWS, there are certain levels. Okay, so AWS has some hierarchy of certifications. Okay, yeah. So AWS certification will be like a beginner practitioner, and then associate. It has 3 levels of certifications, and then professional, one of the toughest certifications. and then specialty certifications. Okay, and then there is another thing called the trainer program. Okay, this is not visible and this is not doable for everybody, just like that. Okay, it's a pure recommendation system, I would say. So AWS, in order to use this, an organization or an enterprise has to choose a plan. According to the plan, they will allow one or two or three or four handy picked associates from that particular company to AWS, and the trainers who are the course designers of AWS will train these guys, these associates, via train the trainer program. Okay, so I cleared till professional certifications, and I did not find specialty as interesting yet. So I'm actually exploring Azure now. I've done till professional level in Azure too, and I've been part of this train the trainer program too, right? So I think pretty much I know how to crack every certification that you see in this layer, and I've been part of train the trainer programming, which means that I also know what the expectations of AWS developers, I mean the exact AWS team, with respect to certifications, but we are merely focusing on real time right now. Okay, so that's a bit about why me for AWS. Okay, cool. So again, I would also like to give you a brief intro on these two aspects, Python and AWS in the current day trends. But before that, I would like to take a quick pause and hear something from you guys. Okay, whatever. So if you feel like it is matching your frequency, maybe you can call it out, or if you say that you are expecting something else, you can call it out. We can discuss that, whether it meets our expectations or not. The ground is yours. I'll be just taking a pause of around 5 minutes to hear from you guys. First is Spandan has unmuted. Let's allow her. Yeah.
Hi, this is Sangeeta actually.
Okay.
Sorry about the name because I am logging in from my husband's laptop.
Totally fine.
Yeah, I just going through the course overview. It sounds
Mhm.
interesting. This is something which I was looking for.
Okay.
Right now, I don't have any questions, but I wanted to know how long will the session will be for each day.
Each day it is like it's an 1 hour session for every weekday. But if
Mm-hmm.
everybody is okay, if everybody has good network access, we can also continue on the weekends.
Okay, okay. So will there be some assignments or
Yeah.
homeworks or okay.
Yeah. So how the assignments stuff goes is you can just go to Google and then press Harry1180. It's one of my GitHub accounts. So usually I give assignments like handy assignments I'll give directly, but you will have to create your own GitHub account, upload the assignments into your account, and share me the links. I also have some bounty related tasks too that I will be introducing you
Mhm.
like this. Okay, but yeah, assignments will be going through GitHub.
Okay. Okay. So if in case I get stuck while I'm doing the assignment, I need some help, or how will that work?
You can
Like, will I have to do it in the class, or I can just call you out? Like, I can just email you.
No, you can do that for sure, but do not expect a response from me right away because it may
Okay.
be delayed because
Uh-huh.
my own personal issues again. But you have every right to stop the class for your issue, okay? Because you are there to get
Okay.
something. Because if a task is given and you're not able to do that, you cannot hear the next class. That's a blocker for you.
Mm-hmm.
So you
Okay.
can always
Okay.
call it out in the class. We can also connect. Which time zone are you in?
EST?
Yeah, in the EST in the sense I am happy to connect in the late nights because that's how I work. So we can definitely work it out if you are from US. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Sure. Certainly. Thank you.
Cool. Okay. Any more questions from anyone? Vijay, Suchetra, Kiran. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry. Can you please put your pet names or the names that that I wish you can be called as, right? I'll not call by names at all in the sessions, just because it is demo. I just wanted to hear from you guys if at all you have anything. And I also know, so if you unmute more than two people, there will be like a disturbance. That's why you may not be unmuting. But feel free to raise a hand at least.
Hey,
Yeah.
hey everyone. I'm good with the content.
Okay. Cool. So if you do not have any questions, I'll just give you a gist of the technical standpoint of these two corners, Python / AWS. Let's start with Python and be done with the day. So why Python is chosen and why AWS is chosen and what is this combination? Okay. So if I go to Google and then type something like types of programming languages, I do it a lot. Okay. So let's go to the wiki page. It's most trustable. Okay. This is a page which segregates the programming languages upon their behavior. Okay. So there's something called array languages, assembly languages, authoring languages, constraint programming languages, depending on the nature and the behavior. If they are compatible, supportive, there are 50, around 50, right? So now we press Python, right? So it falls under what? Concurrent, and it also falls under compiled, right? And it also falls under in object, educational, obviously, extension, impure, imperative, interactive, iterative, right? So it has many hybrid features that a programming language can be compatible with, which means it could replace most of the languages. Okay. So how it started the journey of Python is Guido van Rossum. He's the guy behind, he's the godfather of Python. Okay. This guy, if you go to his LinkedIn, you cannot send his request, any request. So because he blocked it already, but yeah, he's the godfather of Python. He's still working. Now, he is a pro in C language. Okay. But C is not an open source. And he found a lot of flaws in the language. So he wanted to create his own dream language. So he wrapped up every C language code that he could possibly do and created functions like, hey, you know what? Print should look like exactly print because it is print, right? So like that, his own dream language he started creating, and that started spreading to his friends. Okay, so he got a C wrapper, and the language is called as Python. Why it is called as Python? His favorite show is Monty Python. It's a vintage show during good old 70s. That's another reason, but yeah. So he named it as Python, and then it peculiarly have the ability to execute and do whatever the C language does because it is basically built on C language, right? So, and it is an open source. He took a serious wow that he needs to make this language an open source. Okay. So having said that, when the language is famous, the company that he's working for, right, offered him a great deal of amount to sell this language to them, right? So it's like another acquisition, right? So this guy said no, and then they kicked him out of the company, just like that. Okay, so he lost his job, and with his friends, he started in a garage. Still kept his own to keep it as an open source, and even today we have Python as an open source thanks to this man. Okay, but then once it is rapidly increasing like plague, the second part is like there are many Rasms in the world. Okay, not just this guy is not the only genius we have. We have geniuses in Java, we have pros in C#, any language, right? So the Java guys came into market. This sounds very interesting. Let's make our dream language same way this guy is making, right? So they also wrapped up everything. So just they kept in line about, let's say the print should be print again, right? They created their own language. They call it as Python again because that's the same way that was designed by Rasm. Okay, but when it is built with Java, it is called as Jython. Okay, And then came C#, Iron Python. Okay, this is called as Iron Python. Now, Python is a superset of these three languages, which are then time most competing contenders of any programming language. All right. So, having said that, and also having said that Python is still an open source, there's a lot to explore. There's a lot or to expand, right? The documentation of every framework slash object or a functionality in Python is expected to grow enormously. Okay, so do not believe any blogs. Just go to the one-step stop for everything related to Python that is called as python.org. Okay, now you will find almost everything. And the best part here is if you want to be a contributor, if you want to contribute to Python, you don't have to ask anyone's approvals. Okay, you can directly take up the bugs and then refill them with your code and then upload them. Okay, I'll show you the path to do that as well. There's a community where you can be part of, where you can contribute, and you can also voluntarily come up and have a conferences for your fellow Pythonistas. There are a lot of conferences. PyCon is one of the very famous ones. So we live with Python as a community. It's just has become like a religion. Okay, so and people love that. So that's a bit of a story on Python today. Okay, and I'll just take another 5 minutes to finish up with Python. Let's say that you have an organization. You need a front-end application for that organization to live online, a mobile application, Android app, iOS app, or a web application to show your existence, right? And you also need an API these days. Forget about what this API stuff is, but every organization does need. Okay, every organization that has front-end should need API. Okay, for some reason. Okay, so and then you need a database. Again, database is something that stores data. Okay, some space that stores data. So there are different flavors of databases. Team. So that flavors and all like they are like RDVMS we say, MPP we say, NoSQL we say, and big data. Okay, so some flavors. So altogether, end of the day, those are some spaces where you store something. The storage spaces. That's it. Okay. Now you would need a security team too. You need reporting team too. You need a data science team. You need a data engineering team. You need data analytics team. Okay. Oh man. Okay. Now you need testing team. All right. So for this, in good old days, you need to hire a front-end developer. Even today, it is quite common. All right. So like, let's say JavaScript. JavaScript has a ton of frameworks today. Okay. So you have something called Cordova. You have something called Ionic. You have Extension.js. You have React.js with Redux. You have there are a lot now and then you just get released about any a new framework or an extension of existing framework, right? So you might take a JavaScript developer, or you can also choose PHP developer, or you can also take a Java developer or C# developer. Okay. Python for the API step. Okay, again Java or C# could be a good best bet, or Node.js is another one. Okay. So database, obviously SQL developers or big data developers or whatever. Okay. Let's just keep it as SQL for now. Okay. And security, it has certain tools, like let's just call it as Kali Linux tools. Okay. Reporting, something called as Tableau or Power BI, or there are many like SAP BO, many other tools. Okay, some tool related. So data science, let's take R or Julia. Julia is almost even replacing Python nowadays in data science. We'll talk about that in a while. But Data engineering. Let's just say data engineering. That's it. So I don't know what we need to do in data engineering yet. Data analysts, again SQL. Testers or manual testers or automation testers like Selenium. Okay, and let's keep it like this. So you'll gather all the people according to this vertical, whatever the domain you have. You already should have an expert in this field so that they can have the capability to select, to conduct a technical interview and select, right? So now you have Python in your hands, right? So your front-end applications can be designed using Django or Flask, integrated with HTML and CSS. That's another thing. Same API design also can be used with, actually not just Django Flask. There's something called Django, Flask, Odoo, Pyramid, Web2py, and ton of frameworks. The competition is inside here, not the outside, not across. Okay, competition is inside the frameworks of Python alone. Okay, for SQL, Python has its own ORM depending on the framework. Python has something called pandas, which can completely implement all the SQL that you do inside any database. Okay. Security, Python has the best bet here. Again, it is you can implement socket programming very easily. Okay. And reporting, you have tools like Matplotlib, Seaborn. You can customize your reports more fancier than the normal reporting tools. Okay. For data science, I don't have to give an introduction. Python is already there. It will be there. It will be cherishing for at least another decade at least for another decade for sure before it gets beaten by Julia if it does. Okay. But R is again subsided. People stopped their growth and expansion in R for a reason. I'll discuss that as well. For data engineering, yeah. So SQL, I mean Python with a cloud platform, I would say. Even SQL is getting replaced nowadays. So data analyst, Python can replace entire SQL, same story repeats. Okay, with Python you can deal with anything. Even for the testing, Selenium has an integration with Python, right? So now, previously, people used to talk 10 different languages. The communication is a big problem for them. Now, if everybody talks Python, everybody understands what they need, right? So it's a unified platform where people know what others are doing and we can live in harmony, right? So that's the main hardcore reason why Python is whatever we are seeing it as today. Okay. So, and then I would also want to talk about AWS. So it's like on premises is some topic that I wanted to talk, but so far so good. Just wanted to check. All good?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So yeah. So keeping this theory apart, again, let's talk to a similar story. Okay. You are in the real-time setup, and let's say that you are a data engineer, and you want a data warehouse, some weird store, okay, storage house, some bigger storage house than the usual storage house. Okay, so you need to deal with some GBs of data every day. That's what you know. That's it. Okay, so you need a server, right, for that. So you'll set up a meeting with the server guy, the infra team. Hey, you know what, I need this server to be set up because I'll be dealing with GBs of data. I'll do a lot of analysis. This contains incremental load. I mean, every day I'll be getting GBs of data. So, but then the server guy does not or may not understand how SQL operations will work, right? Sometimes some cross join can happen, and it could occupy the entire RAM. There's no wonder, right? So, and again, he might not take or understand or digest the exact functionality, whatever the SQL guy is talking about, because he's a pure infra guy. Please do not say about your tables, schemas, or the objects, whatever you're saying. Just give me the numbers. What is the RAM? What is the IO? Yeah. So what is the IO? What is the specifications? How much amount of SSD you need? How much amount of HDD you need? What? I have no idea, buddy. I just need this processing to be done. I'm a SQL developer, is what this guy tells, right? So this guy is talking Latin, this guy is talking French. So there are different other scenarios where in a single organization, when your setup is in on-premises, I mean not in cloud. When I mean on-premises, it's not in cloud. Okay, so this used to happen a lot of back and forth between people, and finally, let's say a server is provisioned. Okay, it may not meet his needs, but they are paying a lot for the server. To enable a server, it used to take 1 week for various approvals. Even though when he got the approval, he's paying for the server even when it is not being used. It doesn't matter. You will buy server for 1 year or minimum 1 year, or to reduce the cost, you'll be buying it for 5 years. Okay, 5 or 10 like that. And then in the initial phases, you'll be just testing it. You'll not be using it, but the plan is planned, right? So all this, starting with this minor glitches, we'll be fixing everything in cloud. So it means you do not have to worry about the server configurations much, and you will not be speaking two different languages. Data engineer knows what infrastructure he's using. Infrastructure guy knows what data engineer is using. Everybody is communicating and meeting and working in the same place where everything is available, and that is called as cloud. And you will not be buying a server just because you have to buy it for the plan's sake. You will pay for the server only for the number of hours you are using. You can choose that. Number of minutes you can use, you are using the server, you can pay by minute also. Number of milliseconds you are using, even that feature is available when it comes to serverless. Okay, so that was like, I'll have this instance at my own wish, and I'll configure it in the middle also. If the server that I bought is not working, or it's bigger than what is expected, I scale down or scale up. I'll change the configuration in real time. So all these functionalities are available with the introduction of cloud. And there are 3 competitors right now today in the market. AWS is the top competitor among 3. Okay. So yeah, that's about a bit of intro with cloud. And people did not believe when OpenStack is on the roll in the beginning. Okay, OpenStack is the open source cloud provider, just like AWS in good old days. But with the inception of AWS and Azure, even Pentagon, one of the most secure um, data related to Pentagon is very secure. Okay, so even that has been moved to cloud very recently. There's a political debate where Trump is the president of the United States of America is actually opposite to AWS, so he gave his deal to Azure, and there is a court case, blah blah blah. But the summary is they are also moving to cloud. So once they started it, everybody is moving. So we right now today expect the development experience with AWS. So that's the summary of it, guys. So yeah, that's why we will be connecting the dots related to Python and AWS, and then we will get ourselves introduced to the real-time environment soon. Having said that, I'm almost done. If you have any questions, feel free to interact. Otherwise, we will catch up on Wednesday. Tuesday, there will not be any session. I'll give one day to you. Make up your thoughts about this. If it is really meeting your expectations, let's start our batch afresh on Wednesday. Today is Monday. I'll leave the floor to you. You are free to speak anything you wish.
Will these recordings and documents be shared to our email ID?
Documents, yes, but recordings, I need to check on that again. So is it a hard stop that you need recordings? Because we usually don't provide the recordings.
Okay, sometimes if I'm not able to make it to the class, then I would need. If I attend the class, then it's fine.
Definitely. Whenever you miss a class, we will definitely provide the recording.
Okay. So, but the documents and all will be provided in the email, right?
Yes, they will be.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, so that's about it then, guys. So I'll stop my recording. I will still be